Hello and welcome. My name is Kristen Hunter Thompson. I'm part of the project team, and I am so excited to jump in and think about what is this project that we have been working on for the last couple of years that you're now getting to participate in going forward, and why does it matter? So first off, we're going to use I'll use the acronym ADVizE a lot, and I just sort of want to ground us in what is ADVizE? It's our acronym for a data visualization experience, ADVizE, with some loose approach to that acronym for pre-service teachers. So what is the history of this? Where did the ADVizE project come from? Where did it start? Where did it get its grounding? Well, it all started way back when in that pre-pandemic crazy back in the 2010s time. In 2019, myself, another project team member, Dr. Melissa Estrada, Dr. Tiffany Herder, and Elizabeth Joyner from NASA were all at the Gordon Research Conference, Visualization and Science Education. And we were throwing around these ideas of how do we help our pre-service teachers get more comfortable exploring data and working with data and thinking about all of those different components for themselves, as well as how do they bring that into the classroom. So we submitted a visionary grant, a small sort of grant coming out of that conference. It was a new collaboration, and we implemented in spring of 2020. Whew, it was fun, y'all. And so, but it was great. We got to build this thing all fall, and then we launched it in person in Dr. Estrada's class with her pre-service teachers, and it was going gangbuster. I mean, it was doing so well, even as all the world was processing the pandemic as it hit us through that spring semester in 2020. So we started in person and then we moved to fully remote as the pandemic swept through. But what we were really seeing is even with all those disruptions, we were seeing huge gains in Dr. Estrada's pre-service teachers' self-efficacy on working with and teaching with STEM data and their skills themselves, exploratory data skills, and their comfort of getting ready to teach their future students how to do that. And so in 2020 and 2021 and early 2022, we started doing more alpha and beta testing of these different resources. We pulled in Dr. Mike Jabat from SUNY Fredonia, and we were sort of testing this all along through fully remote, then through hybrid implementations and different pieces like that. So Mel's course, Dr. Estrada, had a bit of a this is how she implemented that first semester where we started in person and then we went to virtual by the end of the semester. So lots of things going on, but this is how it went. She had an integrative STEM for young learners course. That was the name of her course for her pre-service teachers. It was a writing intensive course. It was for upper level undergraduates who were sort of towards their end of their teacher prep and getting ready to go out and prepare to go into the classroom. And it's a required course for the integrative STEM education majors as well as the technology and engineering education majors. And Mel decided to take this staggered approach. So every other week, she would dedicate a class period to the ADVizE activities. And so she met, I think it was twice a week, each week. And so one of those, it was every other Thursday, she met and she engaged students in some of these ADVizE activities. So she set them up as sort of these pulsed activities throughout the semester. Mike, Dr. Jabat's course was a little bit different and he took a different approach. So first off, his course was called Teaching Science and Inclusive Education. Oh, I should say, Dr. Estrada works with K through 12, but primarily K through 8 pre-service teachers in terms of where they are intending to go. Dr. Mike or Dr. Jabat works primarily with early childhood education and elementary, so they are nursery school through 6th grade is the age level of the students that his pre-service teachers will be teaching with going forward. So Mike's course is centered around how we can teach with the New York standard, the New York vision of NGSS in grades 3 through 5. So he has early childhood through grade 6, but he really focused in on grades 3 through 5. And the course is centered around student learning objectives and the development goals from the UN, for the context and the data, all of those different pieces. His course is also a required course for all childhood, early childhood, and inclusive education majors. So methods courses, right? We're in these required methods courses. Mike took a different approach through his beta implementations, and that he integrated the activities all across. Every week there was a touch point of working with data, doing some of the activities, sort of connections to the activities. So he really distributed them out rather than condensing them into different sort of sessions, or sort of all day we're going to do data, as Mel had done in her alpha pilots. And so it was sort of sprinkled throughout, and he was hoping to create this culture of data. He also used a data journal. We'll talk about those later. So needless to say, we were doing these alpha and beta testing and revising and building out the resources and things like that. And we submitted a proposal to the National Science Foundation, to the Integrated Undergraduate Science Education Call, or ADVizE. And we submitted that like way back in 2021 in the middle of all the things. But it was super exciting because we got the award. Yay! NSF and publicly funding education research. So we got the award in late 2022. And then we began implementing and broadening the reach of these materials and the testing and the refining across the country. And over the last 3 years, we have run 4 different cohorts that have been implementing across the country. You can see where the pre-service faculty were sitting that we have worked with over the last 3 years and things like that. So we sort of built on this initial idea, and then we alpha and beta tested through many different components, many different styles and flavors of how our pre-service education looked during the pandemic. And then as we've come out of the pandemic, we have broadened the reach and the exposure and the implementations across the country to see how is this landing in different programs with different faculty, with different sets of pre-service teachers and different needs. And we're so excited that you are joining to participate in this asynchronous course, so that a component of this, or a flavor, or even all of it, can come into your program and your methods or a different class. One thing that I wanted to share is we're sort of grounding and getting started and like, what is this? Is I wanted to share a few examples of how this was implemented over the last 3 years with our faculty across the country. So it has been implemented in elementary and secondary math methods courses, as well as elementary and secondary science method courses, a social studies methods course for K-6 for elementary, a STEAM methods K-8 course, a CTE tech and engineering pre-service teaching course, general education course, as well as graduate student courses. So what I hope you're seeing there is that if you don't necessarily associate of like, I don't teach a STEM methods or anything like that, please know that we've had a wide range of courses and ways that faculty have been implementing these activities. Because it's not a full course, they're meant to supplement or augment what you have in your curriculum. You can sort of feed them in, weave them in, and our faculty have very much been able to show that in the range of contexts that they've been teaching and how they have been meeting their pre-service teachers, where they're at, what their program needs are, different things like that. It's a very flexible set of activities that have a lot of different potential for application or implementation. We're really excited to see or hear like where you go with it, how you take all of this. A few insights that the faculty have shared over the years is that they found these activities and resources easy to integrate into their existing course curriculum, that they were able to adapt it to fit the pre-service teachers' subject areas and future students. So if the example in the activity is a science example, right, we've adapted it to go into math so that it more easily resonates with the pre-service teachers, things like that. And that their pre-service teachers reacted very positively to the activities, both in terms of really enjoyed participating in the activities, reported increases in their growth. The faculty saw increases in their growth in terms of data skills and their confidence in pedagogy on how to teach these different skills to their future students. And that the faculty reported learning, sort of leaning into a variety of different kinds of data sets to engage their learners, that participating in these activities sort of broadened the scope or broadened the horizons of how they were thinking about helping build data literacy skills and mastery for their pre-service teachers. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of sort of like, what is our sort of overview, theory of action? How did we go about this? So we as a project were interested in looking at how can we increase the skills and the self-efficacy of pre-service teachers to teach with STEM data, or to teach with authentic real-world data, as in to teach their content by using real-world data. And so we went about that in a couple different ways. So we were looking at the students' exploratory data skills and their question asking skills. And so we had a variety of different activities that you will see and that you will have full access to, from our hands-on activities, from students collecting their own data, from the students, and when I say students here, I mean like the pre-service teachers using data that they've accessed from online data portals, and that they were exploring these data sets, building a testable question from those data sets, and then they made at least 2 graphs from the same data set as they were exploring that question. We also were interested not only in the skill build out, exploratory data analysis and question asking, but also in the self-efficacy of these pre-service teachers. And so we partnered with folks at NASA, a bunch of subject matter experts, to develop videos on what do they do as subject matter experts when they are working with data, to normalize this work of exploring data and asking questions and visualizing the data. So we have those. There are 6 subject matter expert resources that you will see videos. We also partnered with 2 classroom teachers to get a lens of like, what does this actually look like when we're in the classroom with students, as our students are working through data? These are not exemplars of what it should look like, but rather reality of what it does look like, to create that near peer opportunity for pre-service teachers to think about, what do I want to do? How would I do things similarly? How would I do things differently? And what does it actually look like when we put this in front of younger students, the future students, K to 8 future students? So we have 4 of those classroom videos. We also developed different sort of mini lectures or mini lessons that deeper dive into some of the content and topics that are related to the activities as an additional reference resource or pieces like that. One of the hands-on activities that we built out is reviewing a building blocks for data literacy, and we grounded it in an activity. So that is a reference resource that's available to everyone, but we created this sort of scaffolded activity of how our pre-service teachers can begin to digest that and think about how they can leverage that and use that in their lesson planning in the methods class as they're designing lessons and activities, as many of our faculty, the students were also doing their practicums or their student teaching at the same time. So we're trying to connect these dots, and going forward as they're building more lessons and sequences and curriculums and getting into the classroom and using that. As well as all of the work for all of our faculty that implemented were grounded in a portfolio where students were collecting their own work with working with data along the way. And we're really emphasizing the process, not the product. It has different ways to get at and support students increasing, pre-service teachers increasing their self-efficacy. We had a variety of different instruments that we were using throughout the research project because it's a National Science Foundation supported project. So we were building the thing, which you are getting right now, and we were researching how it was going so that when we presented to you, we can have great confidence of like, yes, this made an impact. So we were looking at sort of a data literacy exploratory data instrument, seeing the student pre-service teachers' data skills, There's a question asking instrument looking at their ability to ask questions, and then the self-efficacy of, okay, so how do we think about teaching those? And we'll be talking more about these and sharing the versions of those instruments and assessments with you. We were also interested, right? The whole other branch of the research project was, what are effective supports to develop skills and self-efficacy? As in, what can we provide to you and other faculty members to help you bring this to your pre-service teachers? And so we've had more than 20 faculty, more than 300 pre-service teachers go through this, and we've refined and iterated and adjusted based on each one of our cohort implementations. Feedback we get from faculty as well as pre-service teachers, as well as our research instruments. We've sort of factored all of that in as we've been designing out these supports and these resources. And then sort of, how do we create supports to really normalize that we iteratively improve based on data? We as a project, students and when they go into the classroom, when they're teaching, pre-service teachers when they're going to the classroom, students when they're actually working with data, all of these different components. So as I said, we had surveys and feedback and self-report, as well as our research instruments that we were using. So hopefully this gives a little bit of a picture of all of the moving pieces that we've had going on over the last couple of years, and what the foundation is that we are building from as we have pulled together this into this asynchronous course here on Canvas Commons. So a few takeaways from, like, what is the project and why does it matter? These materials have been field tested in, a variety of different implementations, and they've been refined based on those implementations by over 20 pre-service faculty across the United States. The implementations of those faculty specific courses, the age range that the pre-service teachers are going to work with, the content area has varied greatly due to the reality of our teacher prep across the country. And we didn't want to build something that was so narrow and focused that it was, only a small folks could really benefit from it, because we need all of our pre-service teachers to have an increase in confidence themselves working with data, as well as how to teach data skills, given that they show up in our science, math, and social studies and computer science standards across the country. So this isn't just sort of one little bucket over here. This is all of our pre-service teachers need to have this, especially in the early grades when we teach across content areas. And then finally, what we have seen over all of these different implementations and these iterations is that consistently pre-service teacher skills and self-efficacy, as well as pre-service teachers and faculty members evaluations, pre-service teacher skills and efficacies increased. We used the results from those and their feedback and evaluations to modify and refine these materials that we are going to explore next. So with that, hopefully that was sort of a bit of a sense of, like, what is this thing that I have now launched into? Where is it grounded in? What is it coming from? It's coming from a variety of different implementations and refinements and adjustments based on years of implementation across a wide variety of methods courses across the country. So excited to see you in the next lesson and to keep working with you throughout this course. Bye.